Being financially free means to have enough money coming in passively that can cover life's expenses. Once the daily expenses are covered without the need to go to work, you can be considered to be financially free. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that in order to become financially free, we must acquire assets that produce enough income to sustain your lifestyle. But what assets can provide us not only with cash flow to pay our life's expenses, but protection against market downturns and inflation? So today, let's go over 7 assets to quit your job. Number 1. Cash flowing real estate. It is said that real estate is one of the best ways to create wealth, and for a reason. For one, real estate tends to go up in value over time. If you look at historical data, at the start of the 1990s, the median home price in the United States was $97,000. Today, the median home value is over $342,000. The value of the market more than tripled in the last 30 years. Second, a person can own this type of asset without actually having the money to purchase it. For example, let's say that we buy a property for $200,000 and put $40,000 as a down payment and finance the other $160,000 over the next 30 years at a 2.5% interest rate. Our expenses, including mortgage payments, interest, insurance, and taxes, come out to be $830 per month. This means that with $40,000, or in many cases much less, we can own a $200,000 asset. But let's say that we can rent this house for $1,200 per month. This means that after expenses, we have $370 positive monthly cash flow, or $4,440 per year. The great thing about real estate is that your asset is being paid off by someone else, allowing you to build equity on your property. The value of your property is increasing year after year, and you are receiving positive cash flow month after month. Not to mention the financial strategies that one can use to expand their wealth with real estate. Many investors use the growth in value in their property to borrow from their asset to buy more properties. For example, let's say that your $200,000 property grew in value and is now worth $250,000. So you decide to refinance this house and take those $50,000 out of the property in cash. Then you use those $50,000 to buy another $200,000 property. This means that you were able to use your original $40,000 investment to buy $450,000 worth of growing real estate, and essentially doubling your cash flow, since now you have 2 properties generating income every month. Not to mention the tax benefits that you can get by owning real estate, but that's a topic for another video. Number 2. Dividend stocks. One of the easiest ways to begin building passive cash flow is to own stocks of highly profitable companies that pay dividends to their shareholders. Dividend yields vary from company to company. For example, Apple has a 0.57% dividend yield, while ExxonMobil has a 5.3% dividend yield. A dividend yield simply means what percentage of the value of the stock they give out as a dividend. A $100 stock with a 3% dividend yield means that you will receive $3 per year per share you own. Now, dividend yields are just part of the decision to buy a stock. We must invest in financially sound companies with great financial history and a bright financial future. For example, AT&T has a dividend yield of 8.3%, which is much higher than the market average. But the stock itself has lost nearly 33% in value over the last 5 years. Making dividends part of our consistent cash flow is a long-term plan unless you have large capital to invest. For example, let's say that you have an average dividend yield of 3% in your investment portfolio. So in order to make $1,000 per month in dividends, we need a portfolio of $400,000. This is why for most people, dividend investment is a long-term plan. Many investors take advantage of compounding interest and reinvestment of their dividends to grow their portfolios to a level where their cash flow becomes significant. Although this is a long-term plan, it is a great addition to our cash flow since this type of income is very passive and is taxed at a lower level than regular income. Now, normally investors of public companies don't have much control over how much the company's profits are passed down to investors. If you want to have more control over how cash flow is distributed, you might like the next asset. Number 3. Cash flowing businesses. There are many very profitable businesses out there that are not in the New York Stock Exchange. These can be physical businesses like a restaurant, a coffee shop, a franchise, or an ATM machine chain, or they can also be online, like an application or a software business. The goal here is to own the business but not operate it. Not everyone can operate a business. It takes a very specific set of skills to successfully run a business, but there are many people out there that own businesses, but instead of running the business, put people in place who can operate the business for them in exchange for a good salary or equity in the company. Now, this type of asset tends to have a higher level of difficulty than other forms of investing. This might require either starting a business from scratch and doing the work until the business can run autonomously, or finding businesses in need of an investor or a partner, or buying an already operational business or franchise. Although this asset has a higher level of difficulty, it can provide with a lot of benefits, like control over cash flow. When you own the business, you have control of how much of the business's profits you can take home. Also, as a business owner, you have many tax advantages, like taking advantage of the dividend distribution tax, which is typically lower than normal income tax. By owning a business, one can spend some of the business's money before paying taxes, as long as it benefits the business. For example, if you have a business with multiple locations, you can buy a nice car of your liking as a company car that allows you to go visit all your different locations. Since it's a business car, you can buy it or lease it with pre-tax money. Of course, always seek professional advice to know what you can and can't do with your pre-tax money. Now that we've touched on developing cash flow, let's talk about protecting your wealth against those forces that try to bring your money down, like inflation and market crashes. Number 4. Gold. Many sophisticated investors like Ray Dalio have a small allocation of their investment portfolios in commodities like gold as a hedge against inflation and devaluating assets when markets go down. In Dalio's all-weather portfolio, which contains a strategy where our money can grow in any economic condition, Dalio allocates 7.5% of his total assets in gold as a layer of protection against inflation. In a world of devaluating currency, gold can provide stability of value. As the dollar goes down in value, gold tends to go up in price, providing the owner protection or a hedge against the devaluation of the dollar. Number 5. Bonds. Bonds in this day and age are known as not very great investments, since they don't have the best returns and in some instances don't even beat inflation. But there are strategies where bonds can be used as a layer of protection against market downturns, especially when someone is in or approaching retirement. You see, legendary investor Warren Buffett said that if he passed away before his wife, he would instruct his manager to leave the money for his wife in a very specific yet very simple portfolio. Buffett instructed to have 90% of the money in simple index funds like the S&P 500 and another 10% in bonds. To see how effective this strategy was, finance professor Javier Estrada tested this strategy with historical market data. And to the surprise of many, this simple strategy outperformed many experts' advice on retirement investing. But Estrada added an additional twist to this strategy to take full advantage of the protections bonds can offer in an investment portfolio. You see, no one can predict when the market will crash. We just know that it'll happen at some point. So we must have a strategy in place, especially if we are already financially free and living off of our investments. Estrada says that once someone is retired and withdrawing money from their investment portfolio, keep an eye on how the market is doing. If the market is doing great, take the money from the equity side, since it is the one producing the most returns. But if the market is not doing great and it is losing money, take your money from the bond side, since bonds tend to go up in value during bear markets. This will allow the equities time to recover in value, instead of selling them when they are down. We made an entire video about this strategy that you can find right here in the right-hand corner. Number 6. Cryptocurrencies. In this day and age, it is impossible to ignore the impact cryptocurrencies have in the world and the potential they have moving forward. The whole idea of cryptocurrencies is to have a decentralized worldwide currency. Many consider some cryptocurrencies as digital gold, because unlike fiat currencies like the dollar that can be easily manipulated by a government causing inflation, many cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin have a finite amount of units that will ever be available. This can eventually allow cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum to act as a form of safety against inflation and potentially be used in the future as transactional currency, which currently is not the case. The only caveat of cryptocurrency is that many people are buying this form of currency as a way to get rich, which to many has helped them create massive returns, but it also means that cryptocurrency values are unstable and suffer high volatility. But this type of asset can provide not just a hedge against inflation, but potentially growth as well. Number 7. Startups and growth companies. How many of you guys have ever thought to yourselves, what if I invested in Amazon 20 years ago? How much money would I have now? What if I got on the ground floor of Uber or Netflix? The reality is that we can't turn back time and invest in those great companies. But on the bright side, new companies are created every day that will eventually be great. These types of investments can provide with an enormous return, but they also come with an enormous risk. Those who invest in these companies normally allocate only a small portion of their portfolio into these investments and understand that it is likely that these investments will go to zero. But on the other hand, if they invested in the right company, their wealth can skyrocket and take them to completely new levels of wealth. All of these are great investments, but the best investment that one can make is on their own education. Real estate can be a great investment for those who are educated, but for those who are not, could be a disaster. Stock investing can be a great way to build long-term wealth, but without financial literacy, we might miss out on great opportunities. Investing in our own education is the foundation of investing and developing the life we want. This is why I love books, because they provide years of information in just a few hours. This is why I partnered with our sponsor Blinkist, because it allows us to use those little pockets of time we have throughout the day to get the main ideas of a book, whether you are more of a reader or more of a listener. I personally am more of a listener, which makes it so great because with Blinkist, I can get the main concepts of a book in 10 or 15 minutes. And if I like a book and want to go through the entire thing, I can get the audiobook with Blinkist at a massive discount, up to 65% off their normal retail value. And one of my favorite features is the shortcast feature, because you can also get the main ideas of a podcast much faster. So if you want to try out Blinkist, click on the first link in the description of this video for a whole week of premium access for free. And let me know in the comments which book will you go through first with your free trial. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.